Recording in progress. There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Santa Cruz Beach Volleyball Club informational meeting. So hopefully I'll be pretty quick, and then we can just open it up to questions. If you have any questions, usually someone else has the same question, so I really encourage it. Um, yeah, questions are great. So um, that's my plan is to mostly have this be a question and answers. Um, yeah, no, everything's clear to me on the website and stuff like that, but not everything's always clear to someone else. So, yeah, super excited for the year ahead. Just getting through some tryouts, getting geared up for fall season. Um, and yeah, we'll have a winter season, we'll have a spring season. Um, Fall season is our longer season. We're doing 10 weeks, and for fundamentals, we're actually doing 12 weeks. We have three month-long programs, 4-week programs, so that's awesome. Super excited for our coaching staff this year. This might be the first year that I have um, three awesome coaches besides myself committed for the full year. Coaching can have a decent amount of turnover, so it's really nice to have such awesome and committed coaches. We've got Scotty, who many of you may know, Timmy, who's worked with a lot of the players at this point. He was last year, did the full year with us, so that's awesome that he's continuing. He's not doing quite as much, but he's got a real job. And then Coach Carson, Caroline C. Um, she goes by many names, and she's worked with a lot of players as well, whether indoor or beach. And then myself, on the upper end of our groups, we still have Coach Jake Landell. He's a current beach volleyball professional, and he's working with our top groups. Um, and I'm really, really excited to say that Carissa Cook is coaching with us now. She's just 1 day a week. She just had a kid last November, but she played many years on the AVP on the professional tour, um, and coach was an assistant coach at LMU for their beach team, which is the second best team in the country right now. This was before that, but and then she coached beach volleyball at Stanford for their program as well, which is also one of the top programs. So she brings incredible, incredible knowledge. She's from Santa Cruz area. She's just such an amazing person and influence for. I'm hoping to get her at certain times with all the players. She'll mostly work with our top players, but yeah, she'll come to some practices and work with the younger players, the more beginner players. Yeah, just hoping to get her exposed to everybody as much as possible. And then myself, I'm doing as much as I can, and also directing. So, so yeah, for fall, I think my plan is just to go from youngest to oldest, essentially. So we have Coach C, Coach Caroline is going to be running our young ones. Our suggested is first to fourth grade. Um, I'll be honest, they don't do a ton of volleyball, and I think that's great. They get out on the beach and they run around, they have a ton of fun, and they they do learn some volleyball. I've got some light balls, I've got some mini balls. Lucas just told me that dodgeballs actually are really great, like little dodgeballs for younger kids to keep the ball in the air. So we're doing a lot of stuff, getting them out on the beach, getting them running in the sand. I think that's the biggest thing that players takes a little while for players is moving in the sand is just so much different than indoors. So what's been happening, I was just explaining this a little bit to Coach Scotty, is I think the idea is that beach and indoor are pretty equivalent. And my experience as a beach coach, and I've coached some indoor in the past, not for a while, but yeah, I've coached beach at a pretty high level. Um, is that really if players aren't out on the sand enough, aren't getting touches on the beach, there's so much more court to cover, there's so much sand to run around in. Um, the players that keep doing at least 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week on the beach, continue to get better, and the ones that just go indoor for a while and then come back, they tend to be left behind a little bit by their peers, and then they get a little discouraged. So we're really trying this fall to help players um, be on the beach at least 1 day a week. And that's where Coach Scotty has been willing to take on a lot of stuff, probably some weekend stuff. Yeah, so we'll try to keep everybody playing, getting touches at least 1 day a week, which is awesome. But I got sidetracked. Young ones is Tuesday, Thursday. Gonna be Tuesday, Thursday, 3:30 to 5. Super fun. Everybody seems to love it. So I'm super excited to have that. And we'll probably start mid-August and go until um, the big thing for us at beach volleyball is the time change. So pretty sure it's November 2nd this year. Um, that'll be our shift into winter. We usually do two short winter sessions, about a month to 5 weeks, before till like mid-December, early to mid-December. And then we do after the first week of January, or even sometimes mid-January is when we start. It's a little flexible. Depends a little bit on middle school indoor season, which usually starts late January. And players tend to take a break then, but we will keep trying to do beach during that time as well. Um, so yeah, just something to be aware of is that we are year round. Um, Winter will be the practices will mostly be 3:30 to 5. I'm working with Coach Scotty to maybe put in some lights at Harbor High, and then we'll have a lot more availability and ability to practice all through the winter. And that's really exciting as well. So, yeah, big things ahead. Um, Next on the ladder, sort of our beginner level is fundamentals. Our suggested grades are fifth through eighth, I believe. Um, it might fit for some high schoolers. That said, high schoolers tend to not want to play with the younger players. So um, it takes it's a rare high schooler that's like, yeah, sure, I just want to play. And yeah, that tends to be beginner players very new to beach. Some of them have some indoor experience, but again, it is pretty hard and pretty different. So a lot of times players end up in fundamentals at least for a month. It's one of our more flexible programs. You can sign for up for 1 or 2 days a week for the month. So it's sort of short chunks, 4 practices, 8 practices, whatever. A nice intro um, for the younger and newer players. What else? Yeah, so then from there, we go into training groups, and that's what a lot of players are uh, trying out for. That's the word I'm looking for. Have been trying out for. We had our first tryout in late June, before I left to go down south for um, I was coaching down south for the national championships. Players did really well down there. And then we just had a makeup tryout today. We'll have another makeup tryout Saturday. Maybe one more on I'm not sure when. Yeah. So um, we got our first question. That's a great question. I'm gonna ask it a little more toward the end, or not toward the end, but after I get through this quick little spiel. Um, Train groups. We have at least 3 levels. Right now for summer we have 4. We have intermediate slash advanced, so somewhere in between, then advanced, and then futures. We're hoping to have four levels of training groups again this fall. We'll see how the numbers sort of shake out. Um, and yeah, that's sort of they've been through fundamentals, or they've done a few weeks of our flex programming is what we call it in the summer, and they're ready. And it's a decent amount of just wanting to commit, right? The training group, particularly for this fall session, is going to be a 10-week commitment. That said, there is a little flexibility. Um, Basically, after tryouts, I send out an email to groups of players and parents and say, okay, here's your initial grouping. What are your preferred practice days and practice times? Um, and try to make it work, honestly. I know there's a few players that are planning to play middle school basketball, and that's great. Um, Honestly, I truly believe in the research that multi-sport is the best um, growth for players. So we'll always try to make multi-sport work as best we can. So our futures group, our top group. The only thing is we're asking players that join that group to prioritize beach volleyball. So if they want to play basketball, if they want to play soccer, if they want to play indoor volleyball, any other sport really. Um, we'll try to make it work as best we can. We're just asking, if there's a conflict, um, commit to, prioritize playing beach volleyball. Um, and even if there is a conflict, you can always let me know, and we can try to make it work, as best we can. Um, so yeah, our training groups are more of a commitment. For fall, it's usually 10 weeks. For spring, it's usually 8 weeks. For summer, it's 8 weeks. And then, like I said, in the winter, we have shorter 4 or 5 week sessions with a break sort of during the Christmas period. We'll maybe do a some clinics. That's what we usually do. We have Jake run some clinics, maybe some players that used to be SC Beach that are back home from college will run a clinic, like Hannah Fleming, who's at UCLA, ran a clinic. Mary Lou at Cal. Yeah, just players come and I go, yeah, teach them something that you found interesting during your college practices and stuff like that. And yeah, and I'm working on, maybe some collegiate coaches clinics as well. I know a lot of or all the collegiate coaches from the area, so from the Bay Area. So something to watch out for. Um, Next, high school workouts, training. Yeah, we're trying to keep the high schoolers playing at least a little bit. Usually, high school indoor season, they kind of go away and we don't see them for whatever that is, 3 to 4 months. And our top players are all going to be training at least one day a week and probably two. And we've had a lot of interest from freshmen, incoming freshmen, is that what it's called? Eighth graders going into freshman year of continuing to train beach. So we'll probably have a Sunday practice. It'll be um, flexible in the sense that if they've had a really hard week of practice, coaches will be a little more lenient with them, and maybe it won't be hard. It'll just be about movement and touches. And then other times when players feel up to it, it'll be more rigorous. Um, and we're right now planning to do a Wednesday early afternoon. Some of the Santa Cruz City schools have an early out on Wednesday, so they could potentially get a quick beach practice before indoor practice, and or like I said, the lights at Harbor High School thing could really open up a lot of possibilities for us to, um, yeah, hold more practices and have more flexibility for the high schoolers. So, um, I would say Sundays is not fully set in stone, but very likely, um, or pretty much going to happen. And then one other day a week, ideally, we'll try to make something work. So um, that's the idea. Um, Quick note, we do usually have adults. I don't have a schedule for adults yet, but if anybody is interested in learning alongside their kid, I mean, we're not doing like a combined program. That would be really cool. If we had enough people interested, I'd love to do something like that. I think that'd be super fun. Um, that said, yeah, if you want to learn separately from your kid and like have a little bit, be able to bump around with them. Usually we do Mondays. We might switch to Thursdays, sort of evenings, 6 to 7:30 probably. So that's most of the rundown that I have. So I'll probably turn it over to questions very quickly. Um, just quickly for our seasons, I know I sort of covered it. 10 weeks in fall. So if you're in a training group, you're going pretty much until I think we're going to end the week before the last week of October. So give them Halloween, kids off that week. But uh, we'll probably skip the Monday that is Labor Day. Labor Day is at the end of summer. So there'll be maybe a Monday practice on that October last week of October. Then in the winter we do 5 or 6 week sessions. I usually charge for one less week than we schedule practices for, to build in some rain out flexibility. So if we get all the practices, great. If we rain out one or two practices or weather out one or two practices, you haven't paid for the practices and don't have to deal with refunds or stuff. If it's more than that, we get some rescheduling or refunds going. Um, again, um, players essentially will, players from summer training groups are going to be invited back to their same training group for fall. Tryouts are for new players to join training groups and or players that want to move up groups. That's a time for our coaches to see them and reassess if we think their progress is ready for um, a higher level group. That said, when they're doing well within a training group, right? Coaches will notice and they'll tell me, and then maybe I'll have a conversation with parents about moving up a group or trying the upper group, seeing how that goes for a little bit, and then yeah. So there's a lot of mobility upward over the course of a season. At the end of the day, they're young kids. People develop at different times, so we're just on the lookout for them developing and progressing. January again, like a 5 or 6 week shorter session. Essentially, trying to get us to. I basically schedule it. It could be even 6 or 7 weeks. It's just getting us to that early March time change again. And then once we hit that early March time change, we accelerate into another 8 week session. A full, more of a full session. Yeah, so winter's a little smaller, a little cheaper, but again, if we have lights, we'll have more options, which would be awesome. Spring is yeah, prepping. There's plenty of tournaments throughout the year, right? And there's more tournaments in spring than in fall. So then we start getting prepped for uh, summer. Summer's our big season, and essentially, we're always looking for players to play on our Club V Club teams to help us qualify for national championships. That's what our futures will be doing. That's what our higher level high school players will be doing, and we'll be trying to qualify for national championships in July. Beginning of July is BBCA. That's the big one. Then there's in the middle, there's an open registration AAU, which is maybe for more introductory players. It's like introduction to national championships. And then um, late July is AVP championships, which is also a pretty big tournament. All of this is in Hermosa Beach, so as opposed to indoor, not traveling to Dallas. Was that where it was this year? Or Orlando? I can't remember which one was boys and which one was girls. Or when I was doing it, it was what, Minneapolis or something like that. You're usually going somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Um, what else? Um, I can't think of any. I thought of one more thing. Oh, Friday tournaments. The other thing Coach Scotty is taking on is he's going to run tournaments on Fridays. Um, We'll open it up to other players from other areas, but it mostly will be for SC Beach players. Probably like 4 to 7. So parents, you can go have a date night or have time alone. Drop your kids off at the beach, and they'll get to play volleyball for a solid 3 hours, competing, playing a tournament. Tournaments are always great because players start to understand what they need to work on. For the younger players, we'll have some modified rules to make sure we'll probably lower the nets and have some modified rules to make sure they're getting lots of rallies. For the older players, yeah, we'll just have them play that tournament, sort of Queen of the Beach style. So people are playing with everybody. Well, we'll have both. We'll have Queen of the Beach, and then we'll have bring a partner type tournaments. And yeah, just getting them competing more often, more used to playing, games to 21. Serving and serve receive is always the big factor for pretty much everybody when playing competitively. So getting them out, getting them competing as much as possible. For now, I'll have to rent courts and stuff. We'll have to figure out. So probably be like $20 per player for like 3 hours of tournament play. Um, that's the plan. Um, Eventually, we might try to even make it cheaper than that. Cool. All right. I think it's time for questions. I'm gonna read, there's a few questions in the chat, so I'll read those first, and then if people want to unmute or they want to keep putting them in the chat, either way is fine. Um, First question, great question. Is there a conflict for playing both beach and club at the same time? So I assume that's indoor club. And yeah, so indoor club. Yes and no, right? It'll depend on their practice times. It'll depend on their tournament schedules, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we're happy to try to accommodate that as best as possible. The experience is that the indoor club schedule is incredibly demanding, from whenever they start in like early January all the way through May. It's a long season, it's a grueling season, and they practice a lot and they go to a tournament almost every weekend, and you're going to Sacramento, um, or Reno or wherever. Um, yeah, I I played indoor. I do love indoor. I don't know if I encourage it as cross training as much as, or as multi-sport as much as soccer, basketball. Um, there is a lot of wear and tear on your shoulder, right? Your hitting shoulder, whichever that one is, and your knees, if you're jumping and hitting that much. There's great. I mean, it is good for beach volleyball. I just don't feel like it's beach volleyball is very good for indoor volleyball skills. Indoor volleyball skills don't translate to beach volleyball as well as is my experience of it. Besides hitting, if you want to learn to hit for power, it's good to do a season of indoor and just hit the ball every single time. And so that can be very useful. The rest of it, there's just less touches, and especially at the younger ages, touches are what get kids better at playing the game. It's all about tracking the volleyball. So if they're tracking it more often, they're touching it more often, they're playing more. So hopefully that answers the question. Oh, I guess, yeah, just conflict wise, some of a conflict. Again, particularly for the futures, that's where we're going to be really asking for that commitment. And if they want to do both, that they're understanding that they might miss some indoor practices, they might miss some indoor tournaments, and that usually means that they play, they get play off the bench more and blah 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 blah. And I don't know, it's tough. Indoor is a tough environment. Um, so yeah, being aware of that, um, particularly in spring, I would say is when the conflict arises the most because it's just such a busy season during spring. Um, Again, I would like it to not be a conflict ideally, but for non-futures groups, yeah, if they want to, there's flexibility if they want to do both. Sometimes indoor practices are later in the evening, so that they can. We've had definitely had players that come to beach practice and then they either leave a little early or they, go right to their indoor practice, and that's fine. And then yeah, they usually miss beach tournaments and they go to their indoor club um, tournaments during the spring, and that's fine for the lower groups. They kind of can choose um, weekend to weekend or tournament to tournament as far as we're concerned. Um, okay. Next question. Could you explain how the fall tournaments work for training groups? How many tournaments? Where are they? Does each player need to have a partner? Yeah, so there's going to be multiple types of tournaments, right? Friday tournaments will be SC Beach tournaments. Um, they'll be pretty much, sign up and we'll try to figure it out for you, particularly the Queen of the Beach ones. Like I said, we'll have a few bring your partner ones. So because, they do like to play with their friends. So we'll have some of those too. Um, as far as um, I should have had the schedule ready. So there's a website called volleyballlife.com that will have, and then you can filter tournaments. You can filter by distance, 95060 and 50 miles distance. And they'll have, I think there's like 3 or 4 tournaments in Santa Cruz proper that are like the Wednesday CBVA tournaments. You sign up with a partner. We don't, I mean, we can help you if you need to find a partner, right? We'll help send emails and be like, oh, this person's looking for a partner. But you sign up with your own partner sort of independently. You play. It's called a pairs tournament where you play and you're in like a group of pool play. If you do well enough in pool play, you go on to playoffs, and then you keep going in playoffs until you lose. So there'll be like 3 or 4 of those in Santa Cruz. Those are optional, doable, just kind of like more of the Wednesday tournaments. Um, we as a club are also going to be doing some club v club tournaments. We're committed to at least 3 dates, 3 or 4 dates of a power league. That'll be for the futures training group at first. Um, some of the dates we might be able to mix in. It just depends on how many players we can take. We potentially will be able to mix in some of the players from the lower groups. Um, the dates are we're hosting one on September 21st. And then let me look real quick at what our other dates are. October 11th, we're going to Sacramento. November 2nd, we're going to Santa Rosa. November 16th is Sacramento again. And then December 6th is Santa Rosa again. One of those last 3 dates might change to Marin. We just haven't fully figured it out with the directors. The other thing, I was just talking to the directors of Mountain View Sand, and they're doing their own little Club v Club tournaments um, at West Valley. So we might join some of those. Maybe that'll be essentially we want as many players to get as much tournament and competition experience as they possibly can. So. Um, for the Club v Club, the coaches pick partners for players, usually from within their training group. That said, there's a lot of leniency for especially the not futures training group for players to be more playing with their friends. Um, and the reason the futures and the top level groups do it that way is that's how it's done in high school and college, right? So we're preparing them for a coach just telling them, hey, you got to play with this person. All right, I got more questions and I'm running out of time. Okay, I need to get the pro. All right. With regards to partners, do we find bring our own or does the organization take all responsibility? Okay, that's I think I answered that already. So nice. Multiple with similar question. Are all tryouts complete for fall season? We have one more tryout Saturday, 4 to 6. This Saturday, July 26th, 4 to 6 p.m. at Main Beach. And then otherwise, you, uh, you can send me emails and we can figure out alternatives to tryouts. Probably that will be attending one of the sessions of fundamentals, um, so that Coach Scotty can evaluate. He was at tryouts today, and I gave him a little bit of an idea of what players look like. Um, is there a conflict with NCVA versus whatever governs beach volleyball? Um, Not that I know of. I don't know if the no, not that I know of. There's 3 major organizations for beach volleyball. Um, BVCA is sort of the big one for clubs. That's what dictates what club you play for and your club v club status, because they keep track of it. Everyone else sort of lets you do a free for all. Um, then there's AVP, which, yeah, doesn't really do much besides winning tournaments that are AVP qualifiers, let you play in the national championship. Or right now, the players can compete and get bids for fall championships in November. So, no, not that I know of. Um, You mentioned early practice on Wednesday. Yeah, I heard Scotts Valley had changed, or sorry, Scotts Valley had just changed short day to Thursday. I heard they had changed it to Friday. But yeah, if that's been changed, that might be, um, yeah. I think lights are the more promising way to make what am I trying to say? Make the high school practices work. Um, what is the travel range for beach tournaments? Uh, Yeah, Hermosa Beach is probably, well, Huntington Beach, I guess, is technically a little bit further than Hermosa Beach. So LA area is mostly the maximum range for beach volleyball, which is really nice. I mean, there are tournaments in Colorado, there's tournaments in Hawaii. If we had a group that really wanted to go, we could probably put something together. There's a lot of beach volleyball in Florida. So any of that is potentially cool. The reality of actually doing that is a little bit smaller. Um, yeah, but it'd be really cool to go to Florida and play a club v club, or there's a lot of big clubs in Texas and Arizona. Um, yeah, speaking of which, one of the Arizona clubs might send some players to a tournament for us to host them for a club v club, so that could be really fun. Um, okay, that's all I see for questions. I don't know if anyone else has any more. Hopefully I answered everyone's questions or concerns or comments. Yeah, again, thank you all for coming. Really excited. Like I said, each season it's grown, it's a little bigger, more players. Beach volleyball is growing. And yeah, there's a lot of potential for Northern California beach volleyball, I think, growing to be um, on par with Southern California. Southern California right now is the center of beach volleyball. Texas has a lot of great beach volleyball now, or sand volleyball, I should probably call it, and Arizona and Florida as well. But yeah, it's really growing all over the country because there's yeah a lot of Division One programs. University of San Diego just announced that they're adding um, beach volleyball, sand volleyball as a sport. So that's really cool. Yeah, they'll probably build a really cool big program. That's a super cool opportunity. Um, all right. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. Unless there's any more questions, I'll stay for a second or two. Um, yeah, thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Like I said, this is recorded, so you can go back and watch. And I'll yeah, let other people catch up if they want or need to. And yeah, just excited for lots more beach volleyball. Thank you all. Have a really good night. We'll see you on the beach.